All right. Let me ask you something. Have you ever opened your banking app on a random Tuesday night? Not because you had to, but because you just wanted to check. And then immediately felt that weird mix of, I'm doing okay, and why does this still feel like not enough? You've got a job, maybe even a decent one. You're not broke like you were in your early 20s. You can afford dinner without calculating it down to the dollar. You've probably upgraded your apartment, maybe your car. You tell yourself you're an adult now. And yet, there's this quiet voice in the back of your head that says, is this how people get rich? Because this doesn't feel like how people get rich. You look around and see people your age buying homes, talking about investments, maybe even launching businesses. And you think, am I behind? Or am I fine? Or am I just floating? I spend way too much time thinking about this stuff. Like, genuinely too much time thinking about money, human behavior, and why some people look back at 45 with $1 million net worth, and others are still saying, I'll start taking it seriously next year. And here's the part nobody really tells you. Your 30s are not just another decade. They are the decade. Not because of hustle culture, not because of some grind yourself into the ground nonsense, but because of how time, psychology, income growth, and compound interest quietly collide in your 30s in a way they never will again. If you get this decade even partially right, you can almost stumble into a $1 million future. If you drift through it unconsciously, you can lock yourself into financial mediocrity without even realizing it. And honestly, most people drift. So let's talk about why your 30s decide your $1 million future, and more importantly, what you can actually do about it. Because this isn't about becoming obsessed with money. It's about not waking up at 50 wondering where your leverage went. In your 20s, time feels infinite. You can mess up. You can switch careers. You can blow money on trips, clothes, random Amazon packages that show up and you don't even remember ordering them. It's fine. You're figuring it out. But something subtle happens when you hit your 30s. You're still young, but you're not early anymore. And that changes the math. Let me give you a simple example. If you invest $500 a month starting at 25 and earn an average 8% return, you're sitting on roughly $1 million by your early 60s. Start at 35 instead. That same $500 a month doesn't even get you close. You might end up around $500,000 to $600,000. That's not because you didn't work hard. It's because compounding is brutally biased toward time. Time is the unfair advantage. And your 30s are the last decade where you still have enough of it for compounding to feel magical instead of stressful. But here's the problem. Most people in their 30s finally have real income and immediately inflate their lifestyle to match it. You go from a $40,000 salary to $85,000, maybe $120,000, and instead of capturing the difference, you upgrade everything. Better apartment, better car, more vacations, nicer furniture. Suddenly, organic groceries feel mandatory. And I'm not saying don't enjoy your life. I'm saying your 30s are when the gap between what you earn and what you keep quietly determines your future. The person who makes $80,000 and invests $20,000 a year often ends up wealthier than the person making $150,000 and investing nothing. That gap, that margin, is everything. So the first big shift? Stop thinking your 30s are about income. They're about margin. Here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Your income trajectory in your 30s often predicts your income trajectory for the rest of your life. That sounds dramatic. It kind of is. In your 20s, you're inexperienced. Nobody expects much. You're learning. In your 30s, you're expected to level up. You either specialize, take on leadership, build rare skills, or start something of your own. Or you stay comfortable. And comfort is expensive. I had a friend, we'll call him Jason, who hit 30 making $70,000. Solid job, good company. He liked his team. It felt safe. Every year, he'd get a 3% raise, maybe 4% if he crushed it. He blinked, and 5 years passed. He was making $82,000. Meanwhile, another friend switched companies twice, negotiated aggressively, learned a technical skill on nights and weekends, and went from $65,000 to $140,000 in the same time period. Same intelligence level. Different urgency. Your 30s are when you still have the flexibility to take calculated risks. You can switch careers. You can move cities. You can tolerate some instability. At 45, with kids, a mortgage, and aging parents, risk feels heavier. That's why this decade matters so much. It's the last time risk feels survivable. And here's the uncomfortable truth. A $1 million future is much easier to build when you're investing $25,000 a year instead of $8,000. Income growth in your 30s isn't about status. It's about accelerating your investing power before time runs out. So ask yourself honestly, is your income growing because of strategy or just annual raises? If you're not deliberately increasing your earning power in this decade, you're leaving one of the biggest levers untouched. This one is psychological. And it's huge. In your 20s, you consume. You consume experiences. You consume trends. You consume content. You consume things. It's fun. It's social. It feels alive. But wealth is built by ownership. Stocks, businesses, real estate, equity, intellectual property. Your 30s are when you decide, consciously or unconsciously, whether you stay a consumer or become an owner. I remember the first time I looked at my investment account and realized something strange. The market went up. And I made money. Not because I worked harder. Not because I did anything. Just because I owned something. That shift is subtle, but powerful. Owners benefit from growth. Consumers fund it. If you never cross that psychological line, you'll always feel like you're chasing. Once you cross it, you start feeling like you're participating. And this doesn't mean you need to start 5 businesses or flip houses on weekends. It might just mean consistently investing in broad index funds. It might mean negotiating equity at work. It might mean building a small side project that earns even $500 a month. Ownership changes how you see money. Instead of, what can I buy? You start thinking, what can I own that pays me back? That question, asked consistently through your 30s, is worth more than any budgeting app. Let's talk about the trap. Because it doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like success. You move into a nicer place. Your rent jumps from $1,200 to $2,100. You justify it because, well, you work hard. You finance a $40,000 car. The payment feels manageable. You upgrade your wardrobe, you book nicer trips. You start ordering delivery more often because time feels scarce. And suddenly, your fixed expenses lock you into needing your current income. This is the part that's dangerous. High fixed expenses reduce flexibility. Flexibility is opportunity. The person whose monthly obligations are $2,000 has options. The person whose obligations are $6,000 has pressure. And pressure kills smart risk-taking. I'm not saying live like a college student forever. I'm saying build your wealth first, then upgrade intentionally. In your 30s, every recurring expense you add compounds in reverse. A $600 car payment isn't just $600. It's $600 that could have been invested for 30 years. That's potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. Small lifestyle upgrades, repeated over a decade, quietly cost 7 figures. And nobody feels it in the moment. It just feels normal. That's why your 30s decide your $1 million future. Because this is the decade where lifestyle locks in.